Josie Walker. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for participating in Your Vote Matters and doing this podcast on Black land, Black farms. We know you are an awesome farmer. You're a part of Black Urban Growers. You're a part of the Black Church Food Security Network. You got our backs with like becoming self-sufficient, independent, and knowing how to do the darn thing on your own. So, anything else you want to tell us about yourself, real quick?
Like you said, I'm with the Black Church Food Security Network. I wouldn't call myself a farmer. I'm a farm enthusiast and more of a gardener. But yeah, so I'm the North Carolina field organizer for the Black Church Food Security Network. Yeah,
So you're the one who's getting the people together. That's what's up.
I'm trying. Yeah.
That is what's up. So, um, in terms of Black church, right? Yeah, Black churches, right? And getting people organized. Why are you organizing people around land? What's the point? Why do we need land as Black folk?
Well, land is power. If we have land, well, one, you can borrow against it. You can, and build generational wealth. I mean, if you have land and you have a house on it, that's money that you wouldn't be spending on rent or something else. So that means you can save up your money
Mm-hmm.
to work towards something else. To send your children to college, to buy a new car, to you know to money that you can pass down to the next generation, so they can start ahead of where you are.
And that's awesome. So basically, land is equity. It's
Yes.
a starting point. It's a base point. But tell us a little bit about the relationship that exists between land that parallels the relationship between Black and white folks. Is there any kind of
Oh,
like joining together there?
okay. So my and this is something that I came up with probably a year or so ago, just thinking about how black the black community and the white community relate to each other around land, around it, just in general in this country.
Mm-hmm.
That we're in an abusive relationship, and black people are the battered wife. So, and I mean, and if you think about it, like, literally, we have been the battered wife.
Yeah,
And now we're at the point where we're like, you know what, I'm done.
I'm done.
I gotta go. Like, and what gotta go is whatever that means. Like, okay, things have to change, especially if you expect me to stay here. Things have to change.
So white folks been going up beside the head of Black folks for centuries now. And you would think we would just like leave because white folks is always just telling us just go back where you came from. So why aren't we just leaving? Like what's going on there?
We've been here so long. Where are we gonna go? Like, we are tied to this place.
Mm.
Regardless of the fact that you brought us here against our will. We've been here longer than you have. Honestly, like, at this point, there are more people whose families came after we did. So, like, we're tied to this place, and
Right.
we've established ourselves here. We have our own culture here. We have our own dialects here. We have our own region. Like, we have a culture here, wherever here is. So so let me be.
But okay, so and also like most abusive husbands, the woman gets up to go and he's like, "Oh, where you going? You can't
Exactly.
go nowhere. I don't want you to go." And you're like,
But you keep telling me to leave, and
"You
now
keep
I'm like,
telling me
okay, fine.
you
And
keep telling me I'm a horrible person. I want to go. I don't want to be in your face no more. I don't want to eat your food. I don't want to spend your money." And you just like, "Oh no, 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 no. You got to stay, right?"
yeah,
And then when you do leave, what do they do? What do they do when
they
it?
they try to bring you back with either empty promises or, like, small gestures that don't really matter.
Oof.
Um, so, like, all we said, we want our civil rights, like, and that's it. Like, we didn't even ask for a whole lot. Like, we just want the law to apply to us the same way it applies to everybody else. And and especially now during the protest, you know, companies are doing all these things that, it's like, why? We didn't ask you to take that show off the air. We didn't ask you to, you know, do any of this stuff. Like, I, and you clearly have not been paying attention to us if you think that this is going to make a difference.
Right. So
you're doing whatever, like you're grabbing at straws to try to figure out like how can we make them not mad at us anymore. We like and we're at the point where it's like, you know what, I'm over it. Like I'm not even mad anymore. Like, I just want to leave. Like
I just want to go.
I just want to go and be by myself and do my own thing.
So the husband is showing up with the flowers. He showed up at the door with roses, and he figured out you really don't want these stinking roses, right? You want what you said you wanted. You want security measures put in place to stop going up upside our head. You don't want to give that. You want to turn off a TV show. You want to paint murals on the ground and then still beat us bloody on that same mural and have no consequences. And so, what do they classically do when they realize the roses don't show up? Do they just leave you alone and walk away?
No,
No.
of course not. No, and it's like, okay, well, if the roses didn't work, then I'll try something else.
Mm.
And then when she don't like that, I'm go like get mad at her because she doesn't want my, you know, my fake my fake apology. Like, what?
So
It's like I don't want your stinking roses.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm allergic to roses. Why didn't you know that? You didn't even take the thorns
by now. Yeah,
it's like you didn't take the thorns off of them. What? It's. I mean, it's real. Like, really? Like, we've been here all this long time, and you still don't know what what appeals to me or what I'm
I need.
Yeah, what I need, and what you're giving me. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, what you're giving me is not what I need. Nor like it. All it's doing is making me more upset that these are the steps that you're taking because you supposedly are trying to make amends. Like, really? Like, you're just making it worse.
And then so when they realize that you don't want to go back to the status quo with the thorny roses, so they're giving you stuff that actually hurts you, right? They go ahead and they start repeating the abuse, but they've moved it to where you are. So now they're sending in infiltrators to your peaceful protests and using those infiltrators to call you criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're releasing federal agents into cities with peaceful protests and taking people off the street.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we go historically, they just start taking your stuff. And I didn't want to stuff, right? So they start changing records and they start disappearing and people start disappearing and people start dying.
Yes.
If you don't want to go back to the status quo. So to use your beautiful analogy, white folks, when they can't convince us that we like staying with them and getting our heads beat up side by them, if we try to separate ourselves from them, like for example, building our own financial empire, they turn around and bomb said financial empire.
Yeah, and it's not even hyperbole. Like literally bomb stuff. Like people have literally died. The infiltrators, like that ain't new.
That ain't nothing new.
And
it's in the files. It's in the FBI.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's not even a conspiracy. Like, there is documented evidence that this has happened in the past and that it's happening now. So it's like you're not even, your tricks aren't even that, like, you haven't even come up with new tricks. Like, come on.
Because they still work. So let's talk about why it's still working and why this ties into land. Because you said it, we want to go, but where are we going? So if Black people still owned even as much land as we did at the end of slavery, right? How would that change our interaction in this abusive relationship?
We could essentially limit our interaction to what we deemed necessary versus being forced into dealing with people and institutions that want nothing to do with us. And that's not to say that, all white people are bad or all Black people hate, America. But if you, just in general, you are forced to deal with whatever is there because I mean, where I work, I have some kind of choice in where I work, but the systems and laws are still in place that will make it very difficult for me to advance, to do anything, unless the people I work with are also on board with me advancing myself.
And it's not just yourself, you're talking as a culture in a country that has written racism into law, has
Exactly.
written curtailing progress into law. This is an oppressive atmosphere. So the whole atmosphere is abusive. The whole atmosphere is, if you don't do as I say, then you will be penalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's passed down from generations to generation. And on top of that, so we had a lot of land, but we've lost almost 90% of our land in like the past, 60 years or something like that, very recently. Why
Mm-hmm.
are we losing our land? Where does that come from? Are we just not paying our taxes? Are we not taking care of our land? What's going on?
There are people who have been, paying taxes since day one, who have, their land is paid off, and they still lose their land. So it rarely has anything to. I mean, not that it's not also an issue, but usually it's because of, what does the deed actually say? What, do you have one? Why, and if you don't have one, there's probably a completely legitimate historical reason why you don't have one, not just because y'all are like, we don't need one. It's like, no, you either couldn't get one, who can read well enough to even, sign for one. What are you signing? Who knows? Well, the man said this, but what does it actually say? Did somebody come explain this to you? Probably not. And especially, like, the education system was very not fair. So, yeah, it's like, well, he can read, he can write, so that's enough. It's like, no, like, I have two BS degrees, and I can read a contract and still be like, do what? So it's not even, like, there's certain things that somebody has to explain this to you, because I'm not a lawyer. I
Right,
don't, this is not what I do. So if you don't explain it to me, all I can go, if you don't go explain it to me in detail, all I can go on is what you told me. Because
right.
I see these words, but what does it actually mean? And like you said, changing documents. If the only people who work in the White House, not in the White House, in the courthouse, are people who are not on your side, they can do anything. And
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know until months later that, oh wait, my land is gone. Why? Because something didn't get paid or something got changed, so that now my land's up for sale. Why is it up for sale? I've been keeping up. I don't have any back tax. All of a sudden, why is my stuff, you know, on auction? Or I have to come up with $1,000 by tomorrow. What? And
Yeah,
even if
the
you,
notices came. Yeah.
yeah, like stuff like that. I don't know until it happens.
So you're saying
And
that
even if I go
even
ahead,
in
sorry.
history, when all of your I's were dotted and your T's were crossed, they still screwed you, which fits into a government that puts racism into law.
Yeah,
And so we know we need this place of refuge. Our people, our not even ancestors, we say ancestors like we're talking thousands of years ago. Our grandparents made sure we had what we needed, but a lot of it was just taken from us. It's not that our people don't do what needs to be done. It's not that we don't pay our bills, but for the large part, it's that the government just will take it. Sometimes not the federal, but state and local and county governments will just, or they'll say when something is taken, they won't go in and protect your right to reclaim.
or
Right?
let you know that you even have a right to reclaim.
Yes, yes, yes. And so that's all great. But if we could look at a particular aspect or breakout of society, who will we look at to know what Black people owning Black land and Black farms at the turn, at the end of slavery? How would our culture look now if we owned our land and owned our farms? Who would we look like?
I think, I mean, we could take a page from the Amish. Like they do interact with the modern world when they choose to, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to. And
They are
that's some
on their own terms.
exactly. So, I honestly feel like if after slavery we had, everybody had their little piece and they, were we could be a separate society of our own. And that's not to say that we would be have any animosity towards anybody. Just like we would be in our own little bubble, and people would know we existed, but they wouldn't necessarily know who we were or what we were about because we would be, on our own. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
because, you just came out of what 300 years of servitude, and now like we got to figure out like who we are outside of that
Right.
and get back to who and then and unfortunately at that point there would be nobody who would know what it was like to not have been so we would have to uh
Redefine the narrative.
redefine who we were and what we were about. But there's so much within the world of agriculture that we could do whatever we needed to do to take care of ourselves. We
Like
could
you said. Go ahead. Go ahead.
produce food, fiber, and fuel. We could feed ourselves, we could clothe ourselves, and if biodiesel or just livestock, mule, horse, plow. Like we could do. We don't need the modern. You don't need the modern. Even though there's some things that are nice, you don't have to have them to live to have a quality of life. It's not like we would be living in huts, on the dirt floor. But if we wanted to, we could.
But let's take it further and let's acknowledge that a lot of advances of modern technology are by Black people. So if we had Black land, it's just as reasonable to believe that those same scientists would have grown up, created the same technological advances. So we wouldn't even necessarily have to only be an agrarian society. We would just have our own to be able to develop our own. And but I really want to hone in on this point of the Amish are kind of like talked about by modern society, but do the Amish think of themselves like what the rest of society thinks of them? No, the Amish think of themselves as fully functional, healthy people, and they're wondering what everybody else is doing. So if Black people had their own Black land, would we even be as mentally deteriorated by racism and anti-Blackness as we are?
I don't think so. Like there would be stories and rumors, but people would know what we want them to see.
Right. And we would
And
live our lives on our own terms.
exactly. And if they had stories about us, we oh well, because it wouldn't affect. We wouldn't have to combat it every day.
Right.
We would deal with it whenever we wanted to or needed to. Versus, and when I say need to, meaning like having life outside of a some kind of Black not commune, that's not the right word, but like our separated society. Like once we leave the farm, then it was like, okay, y'all, whatever y'all think about us would be defined by me or whoever is leaving and that interaction. And then we would go back home. Whatever you think of me, who cares? Like I came and got what I needed. I talked to you for a few seconds because I'm being polite. I don't care. I don't care about your anti-Blackness because that's your problem.
I see
But
what I see when I'm home. I see what my people have built when I'm home. You can't take away what I'm living in just because you have an opinion.
right,
And we're not even talking about Black people going off and forming their own nation state. We're not talking, like you said, we're not talking about communes. We're just saying if people had their own land, right, then it would be different. And it's so funny how land has been systematically stripped from us, almost as if they're making sure we don't have our own land to have these places of refuge, as if this black battered wife of white supremacy husband is
Mm-hmm.
not allowed to have a place to call her own and grow and heal and develop.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I hadn't thought about this earlier, but when you said that, like having a place of refuge, so the property that we live, that I live with my parents right now, and the property that we've been here since I was 3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and this November, yeah, it'll be 40 years. But you
Wow.
know, yeah. So but thinking about it now, when we first moved up here, like my siblings and I were like, we're just out in the middle of nowhere because we didn't have any neighbors at the time. We have some now, but it was like everybody we know is like in town. Like we don't have anybody to play with except each other, and like But now, especially during the pandemic, it's like I can go outside, I can walk, I can be out but I don't have to be bothered with anybody unless I want to be. And the man across the road, he came over here the other day when we were cleaning up after the hurricane came through. You know, talked to him. Him and my dad, they worked together on the car, back and forth. But but if he stays over there and we stay over here, we're like everybody's fine. But we like when I'm on this property right here, I can do whatever I want to, and you can't stop me.
You can't stop me.
And for better or for worse, my father takes that seriously, scares some of our neighbors and passersby, but whatever. But it's like if I want to cut this tree down, fine, do it. I want to I want to lay out in my yard and just lay in the middle of the grass. I can do that.
Yes. And let's talk about some of that culture that we could do. What would what would everyday life kind of like and how would we form up if we had our own land, if we were allowed to have our I could do whatever I want to do. What would that look like on a daily basis?
Okay, so yes, so the siesta culture is not just in Latin America. Like it's in most parts of the world. In the middle of the day, you chill out, you relax, you take a nap after you eat your lunch or dinner, whatever you want to call it. Because you get up when the sun comes up.
Right.
You work, you take a break, recharge. Because the middle of the day it's hot. I don't care where you are, it's hot
Hot.
because the sun is right over your head. So that would be the time to do things that don't require a whole lot of energy. Take a nap if you want to, whatever. But then you would be recharging for later in the day when it's cooler. And then you either keep working what you were doing or do something different. But working by the the change in the day, the was it circadian rhythm? Like, your body's like, okay, the sun's up, let's go. And then okay, stop. Like we've worked long enough. Like slow down, refuel, recharge, and then it's like, okay, keep working. And then when the sun finally goes down, you're like, you know what? I'm done. Like there's nothing else to do. I can relax, go to bed, start over again. And artificial lights. It affects how we move through the world because we wake up at times when our body's just like, you want to do what? Um, yeah. Honestly,
Yeah, no.
and conversation we're both, neither you nor I, not that we're not morning people, but when it's time to get up, like it takes some
Takes a
doing.
minute. Takes a minute.
Yeah. Um, and but if if you like I said before, if you've ever been camping, when the sun comes up first thing in the morning, it's like, whoa, okay, like your brain is like, let's move.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like home in my bed with the blinds closed, no. The sun comes up and I'm like,
Because
you
you ain't
like
go to bed when the lights went out, meaning the sun went down. You didn't go to bed.
exactly, exactly. So
So
you're all off. Like we could heal our sleep patterns. We could redefine what a work day looks like. If you really feel like 8 hours is absolutely necessary, which honestly not always. You could do it in such a way that you're not forcing your body to do stuff when it's telling you you need to rest. And that and there's a the Nap Ministry. Have you heard of them? I think they're in. I think she's in Atlanta, but it's on Facebook. It's on Instagram, and it's about resistance through rest. Black people need to rest. We like capitalism pushes us to keep moving, even when we know we ought to slow down. And to the point of exhaustion, to the point of sickness, to the point of you just fall over. And no, it's like your body is telling you you need to lay down, you need to rest, you need to stop. And I can't remember the quote exactly. I wish I could, but basically it was like if you don't stop, your body is going to stop you.
And it's interesting that I could almost imagine that she brought this together because Black people are somehow seen as less than, but also superhumans who don't injure, don't tire, and don't need to rest. And if we do collapse, we're replaceable. There's no inherent value in the individual. So I love that. So is that, you said it's the NAT ministry?
NAP, nap.
NAT ministry. That makes more sense.
So, and what you were saying, like, not only are we superhuman, we could do anything, we could work forever, but if we do take a rest, oh, you're lazy, you don't work. It's like either I can do everything or I can do nothing. Like, how is that even a thing? And especially after slavery ended, like all the they're just lazy. Excuse me, we were the only ones like not.
Literally, we were the ones working. We were doing.
Yeah, it's like we were the majority. Like, there were, of course, the poor white families, like they were on their own, but like we were working. How are we doing all the work and all of a sudden now we're lazy if we're not grinding 24/7? No.
Or not even that. You're calling me lazy because I want to be paid for my work.
Yes. Or I want to not even just be paid for it. I want to be physically able to do my work, which requires me to take a rest. You're like, no, you can't rest. Excuse me, you ain't doing nothing except looking at me.
Or how about this? You're calling me lazy because I want to do the work that you want me to do for your family. I now want to do it for my family and for my home. So I don't want to be here doing it for you.
Yeah. So and me doing it for my family, like I'm being selfish.
Yeah.
When I want to do it for myself, but doing it for you is for the good of everybody.
Yes. Somehow. Hasn't worked yet.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I can work for you, or I can but if I want to do it for myself,
it's not worth as much.
Yeah, it's not. It is no. Like, why would you do it for yourself? That's no. Yeah, and yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
and pay me for, like, if I'm gonna labor for you, you're gonna pay me, and you're gonna pay me like you would pay somebody else who don't look like me to do the same thing and not do it as well.
So yeah, there's a lot we're getting subjected to because we don't have our own place. There's a lot of opinions that we have been fed for so long because we don't have our own place that we've started to believe about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it looks like we need land. We need a place to be who we need to be. We need refuge, not just so that we could provide our own food, fuel, and fiber. Love that. But so that we can take care of ourselves, love on ourselves, heal ourselves, and take care of each other. Mm-hmm. But why is it that when we had that, it didn't work? Aside from them just taking the land, what would we need if we got the land? What would we need to maintain it, to maintain that place of refuge and economic development? What would we need from them or from ourselves?
Well, from ourselves, we would need to understand the importance of what we have.
Okay.
And that goes more to the generations that were not raised on the farm. Because, your parents were like, okay, I don't want you to have to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like I understand you want to, improve or move up the ladder, but at the same time, like we should not have lost the tie to the land, the love of working the land, and like the understanding that even though this is farm work, we are providing for ourselves. Like even though it's considered lower occupation, we are we are taking care of ourselves. We're not relying on other people to take care of us. And that's just my view of it. And I think that's part of what got lost. Like, okay, so you start to believe like, oh, I'm too good for this. It's like, no, you're not. We should have never let ourselves get to that point.
Yes.
Um, and also we need to make sure that whatever that once we hopefully get equal protection under the like we get equal protection under the law, that it stays there, that whatever laws exist, or whatever is new, or what, that we're not written out of it, or it's not written to discriminate against us,
Mm.
so that we can trust that we're not going to lose what we have just because, not for through any fault of our own, but because it got taken away from us legally.
Legally, again. Yeah. And one of the things we were doing with Your Vote Matters is making sure people understand that law affects your life.
Yeah, and the local law, especially like who the mayor is, who the county commissioners are, like that's what's really going
Mm-hmm.
to change your life, because that is that determines mail, uh, utilities, where your kids go to school, what kind of books they have in the school, like all that kind of stuff. Well, books might be like a state, but still, like the local law is what's going to determine whether you get to stay where you are.
Yeah. Or buy. Because if we look at it, land has been codified from the beginning as needing to be under fair housing policy. Since the 1800s, it's been said that we're supposed to be able to buy and live where we want, but they always worked around it
Mm-hmm.
at state and local levels by saying, well, you may have a right to fair housing, but we can write in that Black people can't receive an FHA loan, or Black people can't receive more insurance-backed mortgages, or Black people can't receive. So they're like, yeah, you have fair housing, but you cannot actually get the mortgage or the insurance or the construction approvals on the local and state levels to actually buy large pieces of land or maintain and build new buildings on your large pieces of land. So you literally can't build infrastructure through law.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been dealing with that. That only just got changed in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, redlining, even though it's illegal now, it still affects where we live, how we live, who we live next to, what cannot like you said, you should be able to buy land wherever you want to, but I want to move over to this neighborhood. Are they gonna make that land available to me?
Mm.
Even though I might be able to pay straight up, like I got every last dollar in my hand, and they can still be like, nah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though legally you shouldn't be able to stop me,
Mm-hmm.
it can still happen.
Right. So what you're saying is not only do we need to understand the law, but we need to be able to enforce the law.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like we need restraining orders against
our abusive husband. Yes, to keep him from coming and taking what stuff I've got since I left him. Yes.
Yeah. Or causing trouble, or preventing me from moving forward, because they do that too. They come and they make trouble for you going forward. So we need to know our laws. We need to have restraining orders enforced, right, against interference. And we need to appreciate what we have and gain more of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Land is culture. Land is life. Land is naps.
Yeah, like I'm gonna yeah. You want to be able to sleep peacefully on your acre or two,
Yeah.
and know
Yeah.
that when you wake up, like it's still mine, and it's still belongs to us.
So you just this is the last question, then I'm gonna let your lovely self go. Thank you for this awesome conversation. How many you said acre or two? How much land do you think we should have aspiring to as a person, as an individual? How much land should each
Oh.
individual have?
Like per family, maybe, or in like individual, like individual,
Individual, yeah, because then we get into heirs property and all that stuff. So
individual, probably like I think 2 acres would be good.
2 acres per person.
Yeah, that's minimum, like bare minimum, so that you can build a house, or like if everybody wants to live together, you can build like 3 or 4 houses and still have enough space between you so that y'all aren't right up on each other, and then you'd have open space to grow, to do whatever you want. I feel like that would be enough so that you all live together but you don't live on top of each other.
Right. So this whole ideal of Black people wanting to buy a house, but not necessarily land, that's not going to cut it. We need
You need the
land.
land, yes, because yeah, if you don't own the land that your house is on, like, what have you got? Like, honestly, doesn't I don't get it. I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of monetary reason that makes sense, but I don't get it. Like, how do you not own where your house is sitting? Like, if you own the house, like, how do you not own the land? That to me is mind blowing.
Well, I love it. I thank you. And like you said, if you don't own the land, what's the reason? It's
Yeah,
because let's face it, we can keep building, but as long as we keep borrowing the land we built on,
it can
it
be
can.
taken away.
All right, Josie, you have a great day. Thank
You
you
too.
for letting us delve into your mind. Have a blessed and beautiful one.
You too.
Mhm.